What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the iPhone 10, the 10s, and the 10R. This is a very common question that I get a lot. Which iPhone should I get? It's very confusing because the prices, one, are all the same, so it makes it seem like they're all equal value. And then two is that they are very similar, and you can honestly blind pick, these phones, and you'll be perfectly happy. But I do think that, in my personal opinion, the 10s is the phone that I would buy because all these phones are around the $300 price point, whether you get them used, refurbished, or on a prepaid carrier or something like that. I would get the 10s for two specific reasons, and we're going to go ahead and break that down here. So honestly, if you don't have any of these, since the 10 is around the same price now for whatever reason of the 10R and 10s, you're not really going to get the 10 unless it's much cheaper. You're getting a better deal than you would get on these. So I would say if you can find an iPhone 10 for maybe $50 cheaper, I think that's a pretty good deal. But I would say if you're looking at these three phones and they're all kind of in the same price range like they are now online, then 9 times out of 10 you're gonna go with a 10R or 10s here. But let's go ahead and break down why you would go ahead and do that. Now, this is a very big reason on why I really like the 10s and the 10, honestly, because they both actually have OLED displays here. So the 10R has an IPS display. It's a 720p plus display. These have much higher resolution displays, and they have OLED displays. So basically what that means, if you watch a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of Netflix, you will enjoy content more on the OLED displays. They're going to be more color accurate, especially if you're somebody that edits photos. It's just going to be a better display overall, and I found that my 10 and 10s, they're usually brighter than the 10R's IPS display. And plus, OLED displays are just in general better. Apple has pretty much moved to OLED displays. They don't really do IPS displays anymore on their new phones unless you count the iPhone SE 2020. So there is one thing about the display that you might like with the 10R is that it is a slightly bigger display here. So it's a 6.1 inch display versus the 5.8 inch displays that you see here. So if you want a bigger phone and you want to sacrifice that higher res and OLED display, definitely, if you want that bigger display, I say go for it, right? But all the displays, are nice on these phones. I just prefer the OLED displays. So always keep that in mind if you watch a lot of content, do a lot of photo editing. All right, so the next very important deciding factor here is the CPU. So I pulled up the Geekbench scores here. These are all fresh ran on iOS 15.3.1. And let's touch on software. The iPhone 10 will not have as long as a software life cycle as these phones, the 10s and 10R. Also keep that in mind too. So the iPhone 10 has an Apple A11 chip. These two phones actually have the same chip, the Apple A12 chip. So if we do a quick app opening test, we shouldn't see too much of a difference here. Boom, 10R, 10s pretty much tied. And then the 10, as you would expect, being the slightly slower chipset here. But you can see, still not really that far behind here. But they all are very fast phones. YouTube, see 10s, 10R pretty much tied. And the 10, you can see, it's still decently fast, but you can see that took a little bit of time there. So you guys can see that difference there. So that's why I said that for speed wise, there's no reason if this is the same price to get this over this. You want to get this at a cheaper price, right? Now here is the bigger difference here. So if you go ahead and launch PUBG here, we're gonna see a different graphics settings for the 10. So if you're a gamer, this is also very important. Alright, so we got PUBG up on all of these phones here. So if you go to our graphics settings, you can see on the 10R I'm able to do smooth extreme, even HDR extreme, and I'm even able to go up to Ultra HD. Now it's exact same on the 10s as well too. You can see I'm able to do HDR extreme, and I'm able to go to Ultra HD. Then on the 10, as you can see, smooth extreme, but I am not able to do extreme on Ultra HD, and I'm not able to go to Ultra HD. I can't do extreme on HDR. So you can see those two different graphic settings. So it's not a big deal if you're not a gamer. If you're just a casual person, you're just a casual gamer. It's not a big deal. But it is a big deal if you're somebody that likes to play PUBG or whatever, or just gaming in general, and you want the best performance for your money. You would go with a 10R or a 10S 100%. So it wouldn't make any sense for you to go with a 10, honestly. And you guys can see why I said you need to pick the 10 up at a good price, because it doesn't really make sense to go with a 10 over the 10S if it's the same price, right? So definitely keep that in mind. If you are a gamer and you do a lot of that on your phone, you're definitely gonna go with a 10R or a 10S. All right, so let's talk about the photos. So the 10R takes great photos. All of these phones actually take great photos. This is how it would go. In my opinion, it would be the 10S, the 10R, and then the 10 in terms of, who takes the best photos. Now, the problem with the iPhone 10R is that it only has one single lens, right? Only one single lens. I can actually shoot in 4K 30 on here as well too if I want to. And I believe I should be able to shoot in 4K 60 on this phone as well. So let me go ahead and check that real quick for you guys. I don't understand why Apple puts it in the... So yes, I'm able to shoot at 4K 60 on the 10R here. But if we go into the camera on the 10S, you guys can see I actually have a telephoto lens. I can zoom in shots. So basically, if you are standing at a distance and let's say I want to zoom in on something to get that nice blur effect, or I just don't want to walk up, I just want to 2x zoom, I can do that. On the 10R, I cannot. This does also the 4K 60 as well too. Now, on the iPhone 10, I do have that telephoto lens, so I can do that 2x zoom, right? But if I go to my camera here, you can see I'm able to do 4K 60 as well on this phone too. But the photos are actually not as good as they would be on the 10S or 10R. They're pretty good, they're pretty close, but if you just want the overall better camera, you would go with the 10S or 10R. The 10S and 10R honestly kind of take identical photos. It's pretty close, but I say I like the 10S camera setup more simply because it just has an extra telephoto lens, right? And you do not have a telephoto lens on the 10R. So if you take a lot of zoom shots, or you will find yourself needing that 2x zoom, definitely that could be a big deciding factor. All right, lastly, let's go ahead and talk about battery life. So you will get the best battery life on the 10R, but it really depends, because if you're picking these phones up used refurbished, the battery health is going to be all over the place. So that is one of the only things about buying used refurbished phones. Usually they don't replace the batteries unless they are under 80%, I believe. So 9 times out of 10, I usually get phones around 87 to 90%. So that's pretty much what all these phones are. So it'll vary depending on your battery health. So just do note that. But in general, even with the battery health on these phones not being 100%, I'm able to get a full day's use as a light user, as somebody that does not play games. Now your battery life will vary based on if you're a heavy gamer. If you play PUBG, your battery life is going to drain very fast. If you don't, you're on Instagram just doing normal stuff, you should be able to get through a day with these phones, no problem. Now you might have to charge at the end of the day, but definitely these aren't day and a half phones, but you should be able to squeeze through the day with these phones. If you're a light user, you keep your brightness level at least at a pretty decent, you don't max your brightness out, you should be able to get through the day. I've never had these phones and they've died on me. So like I said, I would go with the 10S. That's my favorite pick there. I do really like the 10R as well too. It's a really nice phone. I like the size of it as well too for people who don't want to go as small as 5.8 inches. So it's a good alternative to the 10s as well. It's just as powerful, takes just as good photos. So be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.